Today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities Incorporated, expert engineers, designers, and manufacturers of steel training towers, burn rooms, and mobile units that are all made in the USA. Welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter. Today is a guest I've been looking forward to having, somebody I consider a friend I enjoy teaching with, Chief Jesse Marcotte. Now, Jesse is a training chief for the fire department in Southeast Michigan, where he's been serving since 2002. He has taught at various state and national conferences. He has a master's degree in public safety and emergency management and is a graduate of Eastern Michigan's University's Fire Staff and Command School. I had trouble practicing that one, by the way. He's Instructor I, a blue Card IMS instructor. He's a society instructor for the basement fire class, which is where I met him. Let's see, what else, man? You're a committee chair for the Mentoring Coaching Initiative for the ISFSI. You're also a member for the recently launched Professional Development Task Force, and you're awarded the ISFSI President Service Award in 2021. Jesse will tell you that all these pale in comparison to sharing an Uber with me and Rob Blissetti and discussing some of the proclivities of Michael Jackson with an Uber driver. Does that sound about right, Jesse?
Sounds about right. You know, and aside from being one of my favorite artists,
there
was another reason that ride was so special. So I got to share it with yourself and Mr. Rob Blissetti, obviously. So fantastic time, fantastic memory as well.
Well, brother, it's always good seeing you again. Welcome to the show. And let me take this back up there. Nothing but the best here at 3-Point Firefighter. So let's start off with this. Tell me a little bit about you and your fire department and where you fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I love your podcast. I've watched several of the episodes.
Thank you.
So our fire department's located in Metro Detroit. So right here in Southeast Michigan, Wayne County. So same county as the city of Detroit as well. We're a small suburban fire department, approximately 15 miles outside of the city limits. We're an all-hazard kind of fire department. We do advanced life support, transport, all those good things. In addition to fire suppression, water rescue, ice rescue, all the core staples, if you will, of today's modern fire service. Otherwise, I work with some incredible people, fantastic people who motivate me, inspire me, just people who really are kind of, I like using the phrase salt of the earth. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably use that several times today, but I'm fortunate to work with a lot of people who are truly salt of the earth and who really give a lot of lessons day in and day out. And that's one of the cool things about the fire service. We can be having a cup of coffee and go from talking, and this is a true story, we can go from talking about fantasy football to the number of indigenous panthers in the state of Florida and what's hurting their population. So it's all part of what makes fire service so special. In addition, obviously, talking about very fire service centric things, whether it's what's hot in today's fire science research or anything else. So
absolutely. I tell you, one of the things I noticed when we first met, and we've spent a little bit of time together. We've actually, I think we've had some milk together, some 2% milk, some whole milk, some chocolate milk.
That's true. Yep, and lots of vitamin D.
We might have even had this lovely beer, which I didn't start drinking until St. Louis, by the way. Thank you very much.
I would say that maybe I'm a good influence on you then.
You're absolutely.
That's what that means.
But what I noticed with you, and I think, and I've talked about, behind your back with other guys, and they've noticed the same thing.
Yeah, naturally.
You're a very, I don't mean this to sound bad, a very up and coming. Here's the way I say it. It's like watching Alan Bruncini before Alan Bruncini became the Alan Bruncini, right? He had to be young in the fire department at some point, making a change. And that's what you remind me of. Very intelligent, very aggressive, good firefighter, great instructor, and you get along with everybody. And I think in the fire service, there's so many personalities. It's really hard to get along with everybody. But I've noticed that you do. You tolerated me. I think that's a big plus for you. That's a win in your column.
Well, number one, that's incredibly flattering for you to say that. I would have never, ever, and will never, ever think of myself in the same breath as somebody who's so iconic. But, the fire service, this is all part of the reason I got involved in the fire service. I just got lucky. Frankly, I was blessed to just have this random chance occurrence when I was 15 years old, and it was like lightning in a bottle kind of thing, and it hasn't worn off since then. So we're going on a handful of years now since that moment. So it's, since the time I was 15 years old, my goal is to be a sponge. My goal is to learn from people like yourself or Rob Blissetti, Pete Mandor, anybody I am fortunate enough, blessed enough to cross paths with. The goal is I guess in the words of Alan Bruncini, is to be nice. I mean, that's the plan. So
Well, you've got that covered. Now, what got you started in the fire service? You said started 15. What exactly moved you there?
Yeah, so it's like my most high school kids probably. I was debating different career paths and so on. And I was 15, so I had time to figure that out. But one of our neighbors down the street knocked on our door, and I figured he was there to talk to my parents or something. So I answered the door, and this guy's obviously a pretty big deal in my life professionally in terms of connecting me with this profession. But he was basically there. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not here to talk to your parents, Jesse. I'm here to talk to you. Hey, look, I'm a battalion chief with the neighborhood fire department that I initially worked for and where we lived." And he said, "We have to run this Fire Explorer program. It's like a fire cadet program, and membership's hurting. So I figured, what the hell, I'll knock on your door and see if you wanted to come. It'd really be a benefit if we could get some more people." So I told my parents about it. I'm like, "Can you believe Mr. Griffin was here? He wants me to go to this fire thing?" And my mom was like, "Well, you should go. You should check it out." So I did, and I kid you not, I walked through the fire station, small town, little fire station. They had some vehicles lined up in the parking lot. It was vehicle extrication. The second I walked in, the smell, everything about it was just like instant connection. And then they gave me some fire gear, and I was like, I can put this on? Like, I can wear it? And he was like, "Absolutely, you need to put it on. We're going to cut some cars up." So here's the true story behind this is I was so jacked, like, immediately that they let me do this and, like, look the part and the whole deal. I didn't know anything about firefighting. But where we were, that station that I worked at, ended up working at when I turned 18 for 1 year before I left to go where I'm at now, is directly across the street from our library. So the training stopped. I walked across the street, and it was before cell phones, so it wasn't like I had to call my mom right away to come pick me up. I had to call collect and then pretend to, say pick me up all the good old school tricks. But I walked across the street. I checked out every single book on firefighting, whether it was like some children's book where they visited a fire station, or if it was something fire science research. Anything with firefighting, fire service, fire science in the title. I grabbed it. I read it all. Still the only books I've read to this day, pretty much.
I find that hard to believe with you having a master's.
But no, it was instantly, it has met and exceeded all my expectations, even at 15 years old. My best friends in life outside of my family I've met through the fire service. My sister's in the fire service as well. So it's become really an important part of our life, obviously.
Now, you're not just in the fire service. You're very motivated in changing not just local, but kind of national level stuff, right? I mean, you're kind of a big deal in the sense that you're putting yourself out there. You're talking about subjects that people they want to think they know about, but maybe they don't. For example, me in building construction, I struggle learning building construction, right? I think I can read Brannigan or Dunn and regurgitate something, but I'm not making a connection. You do, right? So what got you interested in that part of it over, say, VES or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's all different reasons. I'm on a big kick on the difference between motivation and inspiration right now. But one of the things that has motivated me or inspired me over the years was, because this is another thing, sometimes the best lessons in life are the mistakes that we make. So I'm a big believer in there can be success and failure, or victory and defeat, or however you want to say it. But really, that was the biggest inspiration, so to speak, was from a mistake I made personally. So our fire department has been very fortunate to have a formal one-to-one mentoring program for new hires for a long time now. So since probably about 2006, 2004, somewhere in there. Anyways, so I found myself working as that mentor with a gentleman who happens to be one of my best friends. So the fact that he gave me a second chance says a lot about him, I suppose, because I really set him up for failure. And the story goes like this: we went out on your average 3 a.m. medical. We get back, we're on an ambulance. We get back to the station. We're already awake. We're going back into the bunk room, and we get dispatched for a fire. Ironically enough, a basement fire. So this is how some things come full circle. So we get in the truck. We show up right away. There's an obvious fire. I believe it to be in the basement, but prior to that, I had a lot of misapplied knowledge, things that I would hear or pick up on, and then I would take it as a gospel. And as you can see, that the whole Swiss cheese model was kind of lining up in real life at that point. So we went in. We had some trouble finding the stairs. thermal imaging cameras were literally brand new to our department that day. I forgot they were on the truck. So that was one of my initial failures.
Were they great big ones?
These were the first ones we had that weren't great big ones. We had that two-handed, like, virtual reality machine that was like this long and this
yeah.
wide. But these were like your standard, more modern style pistol grip cameras. But anyways, we go into this house. It's about a 6,000 square foot house, 2,800 square foot basement, 5 people, basically trying to handle this thing. The 2 of us are the only interior people initially. And I still joke with him that if he would have been a little bit faster down the stairs, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But all the stuff we're teaching in this ISFSI basement fire class, I literally told him to do the exact opposite of that. Told him not to spray any water. Told him to get to the bottom of the stairs. It'll be better down there. Like, legitimate, I was 21 years old myself, 22 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. So I didn't have all the answers, that's for sure. But I felt like I had enough information to be dangerous, and that's exactly what I did, is I was pretty dangerous. So we did it. There was a 360 that took place later into the incident. We never made it down the stairs. We ended up, I told them, like, we got to go. Like, this is definitely not what I believe we can handle. We walked out, and it wasn't quite like a movie, but it was similar to a movie where pretty soon that entire foyer collapsed in. We learned a lot about ourselves that day. We learned a lot about our fire department and how to learn from those things, whether it was standardizing the type of line that goes to the Charlie side of a house, whether it's standardizing our initial radio reports, follow-up reports, 360s, even down to our extension ladders and what size ladders we carry. That was an incredible learning opportunity for our organization, and it was an incredible learning opportunity for myself. So how this all gets back to building construction is I was in a staff and command program at Eastern Michigan University, which is an incredible program here in the state of Michigan. That was in 2009. So several years after this incident, and I thought everybody has to write a research paper and give a presentation. The whole class is kind of built on that. So over 10 months, you're researching a topic. And I picked building construction because I knew it was a weakness. And that goes back to one of my paradigms, is the ultimate transferable skill in life is being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So building construction was something that was not comfortable to me. Mm-hmm. And I set out to make that a comfort. And the whole goal all the way along was to share that information, was to really highlight. And that the significance behind 2009 is that was when UL released that first report, which was essentially understanding the structural stability of engineered lumber in fire conditions. So I had this incredible resource that was hot off the press, and made it my mission to understand that, and to understand the difference between conventional framing, modern framing, synthetic furnishings inside of a house versus the old school stuff. And how does that, that really just, again, sparked this interest in my mind that just continues to go on. And my wife thanks me for this all the time because I love pointing building construction stuff out to her. So you want to know right? Load-bearing brick walls, you want to know all those lightweight framing, conventional framing. She's put up with me over the years here. And again, she loves when I point that out. When we're on a nice candlelit dinner or something, I said, honey, I just want you to know that that's a load-bearing brick wall over there. So we already knew that, but so.
When you said that I felt like you were seducing me. So I can only imagine what she might have felt like. Because your voice kind of dropped a little bit. You obviously, I don't know if it's because you're more in love with your wife or building construction, but either way, that doesn't matter. It was very great.
She understands.
So, is she identifying stuff? Is she like saying, hey, sweetheart, look at that. Those windows are on top of each other. And based on the year that was made, I bet you that's a balloon frame.
Yeah, honest to goodness, she does. She does identify that stuff. And again, once that snowball got rolling with building construction specifically, the next part of that was, how do I share this right internally with our organization? And then if our organization has these questions, other organizations have these questions. And I was fortunate to be exposed to some different things, like going to different trade shows, conferences, and that was really a big motivator in trying to, see how far you can take something for all the right reasons. So
let me ask you this. So going back to that basement fire, you said you were young and you were telling him what to do. You're telling him all the wrong things to do. Mm-hmm. Based now. Now, was that based on just people telling you stuff and you believed them, or was it you had actual, what I'm trying to say here, experience in basement fires prior to that, or was that just like old people saying, "Hey, do this. This is what you need to do"?
Yeah, it was both. It was. So I used to joke that everything in the fire service we learned it around campfires through and folk songs. Like it was just passed on generation to generation. And when I first, from 15 years old, I'm 38 now. So that's all of my adulthood has been spent in the fire service, really immersed in the fire service. So things I was initially told were things like, hey, you don't want to spray that water because it's going to, cause all these bad things to happen, and you're going to get steamed and burned, and you're going to push the fire through the house. And then with basement fire specifically, hey, you got to get down to the bottom. You're coming in through the chimney. The faster you get down to the bottom of that, to those stairs, the better off you're going to be. And then I had the opportunity to experience, and this is the misapplied experience, the opportunity to be at some basement fires that were legitimately 180 degrees different than the basement fire we experienced. So in a very small, like vent limited basement fire with no real exterior access. So again, no ability to change the ventilation that's going on in that building, versus a 2,800 square foot basement, double walkouts, fully failed. So you have a major issue, and that's what I'm saying. Like legitimately, everything we did that day, and that was my fault. I take responsibility for that. Was wrong because of the limited experience I had that didn't really actually correlate with this, and then things that I heard and I took as the gospel.
So you the building instruction, you got that. So tell me about how you got involved in like the mentoring, the command level stuff, the leadership, all that stuff. What brought you to that level? Was it before you were a leader, or was it once you were a leader, you're like, okay, I need to really hone my skills?
It was before. So, I think a probationary period at a fire department is an important benchmark in your career. And a lot of times when we talk about this, or a lot of times we talk about new hires in the fire service, we talk about the expectations we have of them. And even early on, I felt like, it's fair for that new person to have expectations of us. And that expectation, if we hire the right people, their expectation would be that we give them the resources they need to be successful, more so than just their paycheck or any of those sorts of benefits, but like the ability to hone their craft. So we basically, several years ago, our department hired a new chief, and we had the opportunity. He asked us for some input. So this goes back to my friend that is now our fire marshal, who's an incredible fire marshal. And it goes back to, we had these experiences, whether it was when I was on probation or when he was on probation. And basically, in discussion with the chief, he asked us how quickly we could get a mentoring program up and running. I went over to now again, he's our fire marshal, but I went over to my friend Tommy's house, and we worked well into the night. We did that quite a few times and had our initial version of the mentoring program basically on paper. And it's been an evolution over the last probably 12 years. And as you see the benefits of this really play out at a local level in a small department like ours, you can't help but see that those benefits are universal in nature. And then once you really start getting into it, the ISFSI specifically, to kind of touch on that has been a springboard in a lot of ways, especially motivationally and inspirationally, because just like anything else, as an association, the society sends out an email and they just ask anybody interested in something. And I figured, they don't really know who I am, so I'll put in for a couple things and see where that goes. And lo and behold, the first one I got the opportunity to be a member of was the mentoring and coaching initiative. And there were probably 14 or 15 people on that originally. And I remember thinking, just by looking at the names on the list, I recognized several of those names and thought, man, there's no way, that I can even be in the same room as them, let alone, trying to serve as the chair of this committee. So
you were kind of thrown to the wolves right off the bat.
A little bit, yeah. And it was a brand new initiative, so I wasn't 100% sure what to make of it. But again, locally, even though we're a small department, and this, I suppose, is the pound for pound argument. We might not be as big as some other departments, but that doesn't mean that we can't have quality in the people that we have in our organization, or quality in our practices or procedures or whatever. So we continuously always check back with the people who are on probation in our organization. And those people who are mentored, quote unquote, ultimately become incredible mentors themselves. And that's where part of this, so that is a big piece of the things that I value in the fire service as it is, just mentoring and coaching. And it's something I've been involved with here for the last, 10 plus years, and having the ISFSI opportunity legitimately, where I'm not kidding, like you dial into a meeting and there's, now we have about 10 people on the committee. And while you're talking, you can't help but like take notes off to the side, because somebody like a Jake McAfee or Damon Simmons out in California, they're such intelligent, humble, willing, open people that just by proxy, I'm getting that informal mentoring. Right. So that was really, okay, now that we have a good understanding of informal mentoring versus formal mentoring, let's jump into formal mentoring and coaching. And really, I think that's where we start to differentiate between the buzzword of mentoring and coaching in the fire service to actual, hey man, we're like, this is mentoring and coaching, and this is how we're going to do it. So
how hard is it to come up with a formal mentoring program, put it on paper, and hold people's feet to the fire? Because what if you have me be a mentor and I get a troubled kid that's just, I'm do nothing but struggling with trying to teach this kid and help this kid. And then I come to you, I'm like, you know what? I'm out. I'm washing my hands of it, because there seems to be no, if there's no, I don't want to say punishment, but some kind of retribution for quitting being a mentor, then how does the program stay afloat, I guess?
Right. Yeah. So both programs are dependent on whether it's the ISFSI mentoring and coaching program or the mentoring program we've had up and running at our apartment for several years now. They're both dependent upon people being willing to serve in that role of mentor. So even at our department, the gentlemen who serve as mentors, they make some big sacrifices. So I know in the fire service, a lot of guys are beating the door down to ride the ambulance every day. I know that is typically, you probably deal with that in your organization. Like, please, whatever you do today, make sure I'm on an ambulance.
No, I can't say that's a thing. and the same people that say, you know what, I'm leaving my current wife and going back to my first wife. Same people.
Yeah, same people. Same people that are like, you know what, I'll write all the EMS reports today.
Do you mind if I do it?
I'm not overstepping if I write all the reports. Am I? but in all reality, these guys are so noble that they're willing to put themselves in that position, not like just for a few days, but for an entire year. And they believe in that because they understand the importance, again, all the things that the fire service stands for, teamwork, collaboration, commitment to excellence. And they put themselves in that position to have that positive influence on a new person. And they're really ambassadors to the organization. And that's where I think the correlation back to the ISFSI is the same, in terms of you have people who are willing, people who, I'll use Peter Van Dorp as an example, somebody who's willing to serve as a mentor in this program. Tim Linke from Lincoln, Nebraska. These are people who could, if they chose, sail off into the sunset and just kind of kick their feet up and look at all the incredible things they were able to accomplish throughout
they've
their
earned
career
that
in the
right.
fire service.
Yeah, they've earned that right.
They have earned that right.
But they don't leave. Yeah.
They don't. They stay, and they're still as passionate today as they were yesterday and the day before and the week before and the year before and so on. So the biggest thing that I've learned with mentoring and coaching and trying to make sure that program is sustainable is providing the mentors and the mentees or proteges, whatever you refer to them as, with the resources they need to be successful. So again, just like anything we would do, if somebody is hired in our organization or promoted, we need to give them the tools to be successful. So that's one opportunity we have internally in our department to really fine-tune things. So that's what we're working on right now, which is pretty exciting. And then with the ISFSI, that's the first thing we did, aside from developing our mission, vision, values, getting the framework together. We really focused our efforts on providing that initial training to that initial group of mentors to keep things consistent. So what does it mean to be a mentor? What does it mean to be a coach? What are the benefits? Whether it's fostering diversity, generational, understanding generational differences, professional support, professional socialization, all those sorts of things that play into it. Mm-hmm. We made sure to talk about those things, including subjects that maybe are a little bit more abstract or not as sexy and shiny to talk about, like emotional intelligence. So we have some gentlemen like Anthony Correa from New Jersey, who is an expert on that, who really, again, even in our committee meetings, they're so passionate about it, so energized, so willing to pass on everything that it's easy to feed off of that.
Now you talk about emotional intelligence. Is that like the MBTI and all that? The MBTI test and all that, where they sign letters and, like ISFJ or whatever?
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways that you can assess, your own EQ or emotional intelligence, and it's been an eye opener even in our organization. So now we're going to get baseline. We're going to do baseline testing for our mentors, the people who are working in that program. We're going to do baseline testing for the people we're bringing on. So we can understand kind of what those strengths are and what those development areas are and how these different personalities might work well with one another. So emotional intelligence, the way we phrase it through the ISFSI is we have our core power skills. It sounded a lot more like hard hitting and powerful and firefighter centric than soft skills and hard skills. So really we have our core power skills, and then we break those into two categories: technical skills, which are things that we would receive coaching on. So those are like skill-based things. And then we have our transferable skills, which are really like your people skills. So empathy, which is something that probably lacks in society in general, let alone in a mentoring and coaching relationship in the fire service. Self-awareness, right? Self-discipline, negotiation, conflict resolution. So the emotional intelligence is really, when you talk about predictors of success, IQ. I think for a long time when the fire service was uber competitive, we got locked in this habit of trying to hire the smartest person on paper, without real regard to how that person maybe fit in our organization. So as science would, as the social sciences would prove, emotional intelligence is a far higher predictor of success than just your actual intelligence. So EQ over IQ. And that's really what we're focused on. So that's what makes the ISFSI initiative kind of unique, is where we started with that we can expand into any rank in the fire service, but we started with instructors because that is obviously what the society is there for, and that's part of their mission, to inspire, support, and elevate fire service instructors around the world. So we took NFPA 1041, which is an instructor qualification, and we outlined all of those skills. So those become development areas. So we can coach somebody on that. They check it like a profile, right? They select all the ones that they want some coaching in, and then we also have our core traits and characteristics. So we fill that out too. 1 to 5. How would you rate your empathy? 1 to 5. How would you rate? So it goes through and it tells you. It's awesome. I mean, it's like kind of like a dating website for mentoring is how I describe it. It basically says, hey, hey Jesse, Jake Barnes over here, not only does he have strengths in the skills you're looking to develop, but he also has some interpersonal skills that maybe would be attractive to you as well. So that's what's neat about it. And it tells you, it assigns a score and says, you are 80% compatible with Jake Barnes, you are 85% compatible with Rob Lucetti, you are 90% compatible with Forrest Reeder. That's kind of how that system works. You send an invitation.
I would be 90% with Forrest Reeder? Oh, wow, that's great.
I'm just saying, any day you're 90% with Forrest Reeder is a good day.
Dude, that's a great day. You ain't kidding. That's really interesting because it's so different than when I came on. And I'm really interested how, so let's take, your department started the mentoring program for you all, like while you were there, right? So you and your friend came. Okay. So but prior to that, was there a lot of hazing of your first year, your recruits and all that? Because my question is, when you started doing the mentoring, did the hazing go down and the quality of personnel go up?
Yeah. So I think, so we're a younger fire department in general. We were started by a retired member of the Detroit Fire Department. So everything we had in our history was hand-me-downs from the city of Detroit. And this is late 70s. So this isn't like we were founded in like 1750 or something like that. We were founded in the late 1970s.
During disco.
During disco. Yes, absolutely. So I've been roller skating. I'm familiar. I know what you're talking about.
You can roller boogie with the best of them.
Yeah, no doubt. But even like when I started, we started the Detroit Fire Department on our portable radios because it was such a tradition. It's just how it always was. And the personnel we had then, our command officers, they did the best they had with what they had. So we had a fairly traditional probationary model where I would come to work. My expectations were basically maps and mops. You study the map, and if you're not looking at a map, grab a mop. And kind of the show up and shut up concept. You're here to learn, not to talk kind of thing. And then you receive a daily evaluation from that senior officer working that day. So again, that's not somebody that you are necessarily paired up with. And we talk about something like professional support or professional socialization. It can be hard for a new person to be assigned directly to the shift commander. Like if I was to have an issue, I might not have the confidence or the guts really to say, hey, Lieutenant so-and-so or Captain so-and-so or Battalion Chief so-and-so, I'm having a hard time with my EMS reports, or I'm having a hard time with the map. So that was one of the things we did over time, is to, the command officers have enough to worry about as it is. So one of the ways we did that was we tried to make it a peer-to-peer. So if you're a firefighter, we're going to connect you with another firefighter. Right. And that firefighter is going to work with you day in and day out. They're going to be on the ambulance, the rescue with you. So that was a big part of our evolution, is getting it to a peer-to-peer mentoring program versus just, you get a daily score. And again, it's not a fault to the individuals, but it wasn't consistent. So I would work a day on A shift, and I'd get my daily evaluation signed from the shift commander, and it would be all 5s, right, out of 10. Right. And I'd say, hey, Lieutenant so-and-so, can you explain this? Oh yeah, well, you didn't do anything really good and you didn't do anything really bad, so I just gave you 5s. Well, that's an E. That's failing. Right. So that's 50%. Then I work another day, and I'd get all 0s on B shift, as an example. And on B shift, I'm like, what did I do? Well, you're brand new. You're not expected to know this, so I gave you all 0s. And then I could work another day on C shift and get all 10s. And it was because you didn't do anything wrong, even though I didn't do any of those skills. So that's where, with time, just being aware of things and having good feedback with the people that we have, we were able we eliminated the numbers as an example. It's you either meet the standard, exceed the standard, or you're not meeting the standard. So it's kind of like a 3-point system. And anytime somebody is not meeting the standard, you have to put in right in their daily evaluation why that is. And similarly, if somebody's exceeding the standard, you need to put why that is too. So it puts a little bit more of that burden back on the mentor. But again, having the right mentors, people really appreciate and understand the importance of that role in our organization. And I think a lot of people understand that in the fire service too.
When I used to work for Lexington Fire Department, which is an excellent fire department, I loved it. We had, and I may be getting this part wrong, it's been a while and I'm very, very old. But we had a thing where you do the annual review, but as a new guy, you got a monthly review. And I think it was 1 to 5, five subjects, 1 to 5, basically, right? So 5 is the highest. We went through those, and now I'd been on about 2 or 3 years at this point, and we're doing the same evaluations, but now we're just doing them a year instead of every month. And one of the people I was working with, who was a fine firefighter, nothing wrong with him at all, very good firefighter, his officer gave him all 5s across the board, just straight across the board 5s. And this guy was really good, don't get me wrong. But then the majors kind of pulled him aside and said, well, wait a minute, you're saying he can't improve on anything. He is the perfect firefighter, and then the officer's argument is, well, why do you have 5s? If I can't give them, if I can't give a 5, why do you have 5s? Right. And I remember I could totally see both sides of the argument so clearly. It's hard to do anymore, but I remember thinking, wow, nope, he's right. Nope, he's right. So you got rid of the numbers altogether, I guess, for similar reasons.
We did, yeah. So, I'm all about less moving parts, number one. I'm also all about, like the mission support concept. So our mission statement, the long version of it, I could spit that out. But we've summarized our mission over the years, and the mission is really summarized by a concept that we refer to as be the standard, right? So if we want somebody to be the standard, we need to know what the standard is. So what we really did with that daily evaluation is we identified those core areas, and we literally typed out letter for letter what the standard readiness for duty, what does that mean? So it is a typed out metric on this is what readiness for duty is as a member of our department. And then that's where it's a drop down, and you put basically, fails to meet standard, exceed standard. And you have to put in your notes why you're doing that. And it's like that for everything, all the way down, even in those coaching-based skills versus the mentoring. But whether it's
is that your only 3 choices for everything?
Yeah, essentially those are our three choices. We do have a failing option because I think that's important too, to make sure that if and again, everything is predicated on this improvement plan. So if several weeks, months go by and it's still, even though there's a detailed plan, we have the ability to switch up our mentors. So every person's actually assigned 2 mentors at a time, 1 lead and 1 assistant. So when that lead's not there, they're working with the assistant. And if there's a personality conflict or something like that, we could switch that up too. But those are basically our 4 options. Failing to meet the standard, not meeting the standard, meets the standard, and exceeds the standard. So, and again, there's no numerical score attached to that.
Right. Wow. So are you aware of Jacob Johnson down in Pearland, Texas?
I have heard the name. So I've not had the pleasure of crossing paths with him.
He's definitely somebody. I mean, listening to you talk sounds a lot like of stuff he does, because he travels the country teaching mentoring stuff, and
he has his own website, correct? He has a website and some other. Yes, yeah. I have looked through his resources, and they're great. Yes.
Yeah. So when I heard him talk, I'm hearing you talk. I'm hearing so much of the same stuff, and it's amazing, because again, we talked about sometimes people use it as a buzzword when it's very, very in depth. I mean, and I think it's really, really interesting. I think that can help change a fire department. Again, when I came on, I've been a new guy 3 times, and I think 2 times, you get hazed. I was a new guy twice that I can remember where I got hazed constantly. And to your point, it was like, shut up. Listen, you go clean the shitter and then get on the truck. Mm-hmm. You'll learn exactly what I want you to learn when I want you to learn it. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine today, and there was a guy at his department that wasn't the best new guy, right? He just wasn't. He took longer to learn things, but he was always trying. So he'd been beaten up so bad by this crew that he finally just shut up, doesn't ask questions, and you could see his skills decline on basic stuff because he's afraid to open his mouth. He's afraid to ask for help because all he's been done, only thing that's happened to him has been beat up. You're an idiot. Yep. You're stupid. You got this wrong, and I hate to see that, because that doesn't just make a company weak. It doesn't just make a crew weak. It makes a department weak. And you could even argue the industry weaker. And that's why I like the idea of mentoring. We had an informal program where I was at. I loved it because I think it's nice to have the peer-to-peer, like you said. It's nice to have somebody that's your same rank that's going to help you through all the ups and downs, and you're more open to talk to them and say, "Hey, listen, Captain So-so's
definitely
talk to me. Well, yeah, let's talk about this." So huge proponent of it. I love it. Yeah.
So, and again, it's just continues to snowball, and we've been fortunate to bring a lot of incredible people into our organization over the years. So our 2 youngest members, probably by age, are rewriting our entire mentor program right now. So that's a fun project to be working on with them.
Really?
So that's, again, the idea that there are so many generational stereotypes that exist, in the fire service specifically, whether it's a millennial can't use a power tool or whatever the concept is.
Right.
So that's one of the unique opportunities is, hey, we want to connect with people. Let's connect with the people who can connect with the people. So, it's like having an organization full of Jake Barnes. Wouldn't
that be sweet?
So
wouldn't that be sweet?
It would be pretty sweet. Actually, you know what? I don't want to creep you out, but I was gonna snip your background and put it as my background. Wear a hat, headphones, the whole deal today. I just ran out of time.
I tell you what, you would have seen me probably trying to kiss my computer screen at that point. I'm such a big fan of me. I would have fallen in love with myself.
I don't blame you.
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Just ask my mom. I was
just gonna say, my mom tells me the same thing over and over again. She's a smart woman.
Yep. Well, my mom says I'm in her top 3 kids. She's only got 2 kids, but she said I'm in her top 3. So hey, that's high praise from that woman.
Still on the podium, man.
Hey, I'm still on the podium. So you said you saw Rob Lassetti's, and of course we both know Rob. Let me see if I get this night correct. Okay, you tell me when I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. So we're in St. Louis. Okay, we're in St. Louis. We did a wonderful class, and Rob says, "Hey, let's go to this high-end liquor store /
super high-end.
Super high-end. Some of the finest metal bars on the windows I've ever seen." We go in there, and we get pregame, game, and postgame milk. I think it was 2% milk for pregame, whole milk for game.
Yep.
chocolate milk.
Correct.
Yeah. So Rob, at that point, warns us that you like Rob just fine, but if he gets drinking too much, you're going to see Bobby. So we hear about Bobby all night. Now, we never saw Bobby. And then near the end of the evening, I think it was you and me were still going strong, and Bobby was drinking Diet Pepsi in the hotel.
Yeah, I remember the story pretty much the same way. And we had an opportunity to host Robert up here in Michigan recently.
Right.
We hosted one of the ISFSI basement fire classes, which you did not put in for. I don't believe so. We'll have that chat offline.
Yeah.
But
I did get Fairfax though, so I get to go see Bobby.
It was, oh yeah, well, you have a great time with it. And again, just like all the other basement fire classes, it was awesome. Students were awesome. Instructors were awesome. And we were trying to egg Bobby on. We were doing our best. There was a second where he had a phone out, and I don't know if it was Uber or what he was doing, but he was just rattling off places to go. And then he retired to his hotel room. So it was like, we were here, and then
it's an immediate drop.
Drop.
Yeah. It's like kind of like the uncanny valley. It's, the Bobby Valley, it doesn't really exist, but we talk about it a little bit.
We talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I remember correctly, I think it was probably all the calcium from all the milk we were drinking that night. But we went to bed kind of late, and we also had to get up at 3:00 to take an Uber. And that was painful. That was a very painful
That's
ride.
where you see who the professionals are. You know what I mean? And you thought you were flying to Dallas-Fort Worth, which turned out to be Detroit. Turned out to be the same flight.
Turned out to be the same flight.
Neither claim to fame.
Yes. So I even
got
had
to ride on your
mimosas.
private jet. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was wonderful. I felt like I was. I felt like royalty. I said, I'm here with Jesse. I'm flying to Detroit. I had no idea that I wasn't going to Dallas-Fort Worth. But to be fair, both of those have D's in them. So.
They do, and W's. We're DTW.
Well, see,
throws you off.
I feel like that I made a pretty good mistake, and that's okay. That's okay.
It worked out.
Yeah. No, I didn't go to the Michigan class. I don't know why. I must have been doing something else. But I did get the Fairfax. I got the New York City one, which I'm really, really, really excited about. That.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's 2 days. Yeah, it's two classes.
See, that's also super cool because you're in the rhythm. And again, it's like anything else in the fire service. You go to a class or anything else. First day is like that feeling out period, and then by the second day, we're all best friends.
Yeah, so exactly.
So in New York, you'll get that third day, and it'll just be chemistry everywhere.
Oh yeah, I'm chemistry all over myself.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Next week, I'm going to Illinois Fire Service Institute to do a basement fire program there. And again, Forrest Reeder, Pete Van Dorp, Mike McCarthy from Boston, Pat Ellis, right? All these guys, Scott Wallace, who are just awesome people. And then I got the Sacramento class too in March.
Oh yeah, I'm pissed about that. I wanted that class.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out west and have some fun with those guys too. Your buddy Gilbert.
Yeah, my buddy Gilbert.
I've never had the pleasure of teaching with, but I had the pleasure of learning from. Another great instructor, down to earth, super cool guy. And that's what I'm saying. The society itself has been like such a source of motivation for me. Where like just putting fuel in the tank and keeping enough in reserve to get you through for quite a while, because everybody's meeting and exceeding expectations. Forrest Reeder, like the guy who literally wrote the book on how to be an instructor, literally is like one of the most approachable, accessible human beings you could meet. So that's pretty incredible. So and he'll be at the class next week too.
Forrest Reeder is awesome, and to be fair, me and him did share a shower together. Albeit at different times.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
I was in the lobby. Yeah. He used my room.
This is true.
But when I tell the story, we shared a shower together. Just
you saved the bath water naturally, some of it. So.
Well, I took pictures and samples, and then I wrote Forrest Reeder, washed here, and I got him up on my wall on the other side of this. He's kind of a big deal. He's kind of a big deal.
He's a big deal.
You're right, though. He is like, to me, like one of the top. Right. But he is so humble and so cool and just funny. I love Forrest Reeder to death. All those guys, Pete Van Dorp. You get to go out there with Gilbert. Just the society has some of the greatest instructors that I always say the reason I'm here is because I want to level up my game and be as good as these instructors. That's my goal. And you can't help but be around these people and not pick up from them. You know, Brad, I just got through teaching at Indy with Brad French, Kaz, Scott Wallace. It was great. It was great. Another Bozzoni was there.
Oh yeah, I got to meet Bozzoni a couple times. We taught in Philadelphia together in St. Louis, and again, he is a dude who is on the ball, like young guy, dialed in, passionate, all the things you'd want to see in anybody, let alone somebody in the fire service. So it's one of those things that I've just been blessed to have that opportunity as well.
Oh yeah, it really is a wonderful opportunity. I kick myself thinking back, why didn't you take this more seriously 15 years ago, and join the society and then level your game up back then? I hate that I'm doing it late in my game, but I'm doing it,
But yeah, absolutely. So that level your game up thing, to tie up that mentoring stuff, a lot of stuff is assumed in mentoring, and one of the assumptions that's assumed is it's really just that senior person or that ranking person mentoring that junior person. When in reality, we all stand a lot to learn from that quote unquote junior person. So that concept of reverse mentoring is really real. And an example I'll use of that, like over time, several people have pushed me. My sister's 7 years younger than me. She's in the fire service, and she would run circles around myself and most people. We have another gentleman in our department who's a younger guy, and I was making excuses for not reading books. Like, I'm pretty good at reading a sports section or something like that, but a book, like I would make all these excuses. And until finally, one of those new guys, he's like, man, this is how you could listen. And why are you reading the book? Why don't you listen to it? I'm like, well, I don't have time to listen to it. Well, what about like when you mow your lawn, or, do you work out? Because if you started working out, you could listen to your book while you work out. And it's like kind of being offered a piece of gum. Like you're picking up on the cue, like, oh, you're offering me a piece of gum, I should probably take that. Yeah. If you're asking me if I work out, I should probably start doing that.
Now, I don't believe you don't work out, because you look like a Roman god. I'll put it out there, a Roman god right there.
You're not the first person to tell me that today. so apparently, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just leaning into it.
Yeah, I did. I hate to. I don't use this platform to brag on my physical prowess, but about 2.5 months ago, I did 3 knee push-ups.
Ooh, nice.
Or 2.5, and it still kind of hurts, but I think you can tell pretty much. I'm looking strong.
I thought you had a filter at first. But
no, and everybody says,
no, this is you.
This is me. This is me.
Yeah.
What do the kids always call me? Shredded AF. I don't know what that means, but I feel like that's me.
Yep. So yeah, one of these books that I started reading, and again, every now and then you just have like an epiphany. So I started reading this book, and I actually read it. Like, I tabbed the sucker up. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the whole point about this is this book just coincides with mentoring and coaching in general. So it's called the Talent Code, and essentially the concept is greatness isn't born; it's made or grown, and here's how. But one of the things it talks about in that book is deep practice, right? So deep practice, and what does that mean? And we can apply that as an instructor. I feel like this book is like the must-read book. But what it basically tells you is our goal is to operate in the sweet spot. And that sweet spot is on the edge of our capabilities. So as an instructor, when I'm in a group, like that group in St. Louis with Brian Zeitz and yourself, or Forrest Reeder and Rob Bussetti, or Philadelphia with Seth Barker and Matt Hopple, and I get Pat Ellis, Mike McCarthy, Bozzoni. Like, I'm on the edge of my capabilities. Mm-hmm. So like that's that whole like fake it till you make it thing, because you walk in the room and realize very quickly, like, I'm here to learn. I have a lot to learn, and I'm lucky to be learning it from these people. In addition to obviously the people who are in the class, because everybody that I've ran across in that class as a student or instructor has been like kick-ass, top-notch person. Yes. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. And that's like at the end of our stuff, we always say, you're probably the guys that don't need to be here. You're the 1%ers. Right, yeah. You're giving up your weekend, your time with your family. You're giving up, PTO, whatever it is, to come learn this skill and take it back. So that's what recharges my batteries, is being around all those students they're wanting to be there on the weekend. And like you said, though, you're an instructor, but you learn just as much as everybody else. That is like a very selfish side effect of being a good instructor, or just any instructor really, is that you get to learn all this other stuff, different ways to do things. It's wonderful.
I'm so selfish with that. And that I will be honest with that. I'm selfish in terms of when I have those opportunities, I take them. So, just this past this past weekend, I was in Missouri for their instructors conference. And,
I saw that on Facebook, and you were dressed very dapper, might I say? Almost
well,
like a mayor, almost very mayoral.
maybe a little less than mayoral, but in the ballpark.
Yeah, mayoral pro tem, sort of.
Pro tem, yeah, and yeah, I mean, shoe fits, wear it. I got 2 more weeks off. I got 2 more weeks. So, but really, they had some incredible people there. So Tracy Gray is a gentleman that I don't know if you ever crossed paths with him before, but he kind of runs things from the University of Missouri Fire and Rescue Training Institute side, and then they had some other instructors who were top notch. So Dave McGlynn out of Pennsylvania, and then John Murphy out of the state of Washington. Mm-hmm. So like we're sitting there, John Murphy's talking, he's doing a keynote presentation, and I look over at Dave McGlynn. Dave McGlynn's writing, and then I still have my notes. So like John Murphy's talking, you can't help but like just pick your pen up and just start writing, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's an opportunity, and so that was just another fun experience. And Dave McGlynn actually took a photo of it because, not coordinated at all. We're both like filling our page.
Yeah.
And because that's what we're there to do, that's an incredible opportunity. So selfishly, I seize that shit. Like, I don't want to let that go by the wayside.
No, absolutely. And so I teach the 1403 class. I've taught that for years. And you want to talk about top level instructors. Like I always bring up Bill DiAgostino, Chris Hubbard, all these guys. And I do the same thing when I'm teaching with them and they're up there. I don't have it in this office, I have it in my work office, I have a book, and I just write every time they say something, even if it's just an offhand kind of joke that fits an area, I'll write it down and steal it. And I'll just take all these notes of these people. And then, at lunchtime, I'm sitting there kind of organizing a little bit, and they'll be sitting right next to me. Well, what's all that? That's shit you said. That's amazing, dude. I mean, you don't realize how good you are, I guess, because, I take notes all the time. I won't ever do it for Gilbert because I don't want to make his head any bigger. That's for sure.
Best tattoos in the fire service, in my opinion. Oh
yeah.
Those are some legit tattoos. If it wouldn't have been creepy, I'd get the same ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they're just that T-shirt you put on. It looks like sleeves around Halloween.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Me and him are I think next Tuesday we're teaching in Arizona, so I'll ask him.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Yeah. So even like you were saying, things that instructors say. So we're in St. Louis and we're doing like a debrief on the class, and Forrest Reeder jumps in and he's like, "What are we here for? Here's what we're here for. We're here to be better, safer, smarter, faster." So, and he just rattled it off so fast, and I'm like, "Oh man, like I don't have anything to write with.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna remember that." So, and then getting to hang out with him a little bit later that evening, and actually talk to him about it. Now it's ingrained in my head. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. And that's somebody who's had decades of experiences to shape that message, right? And he's done a pretty dang good job of sharing that message as well.
He has. And when he talks, you can feel the passion. You just feel the passion, right? I can't imagine him having a bad day teaching. Like, you can kind of say, "Hey, man, he seems kind of grumpy." Like, no, he's focused. He's just passionate, man. And you can just tell he's desperately trying to give you information, just trying so hard to give, "Hey, here's something I learned. I want you to learn it too. Here, it's free. Take it."
Yep. Here's a quick cool story. And again, it correlates back with mentoring and coaching and all these things, because you hear about people, you see people over years, especially like if you go to one of these big conferences, you're reading magazines, you see a lot of the same names a lot of times, So one of the biggest names in the fire service, in my opinion, is Pete Van Dorp.
Oh, yeah.
So we launched this professional development series at work. We call it the Green Light Series, and we take our command meetings and we turn them into command workshops. So that's the concept. So we grab somebody with a message, and we've only done 2 of these, so I'm not claiming to be, like the expert. We do them quarterly. Mm-hmm. So basically what we do is we reach out to somebody and we ask them to share a message with our organization over video conferencing. So small department, small budget, but using technology, we can leverage that in a really positive way. So we line up the first speaker, we're like a week out, and the first speaker has a scheduling conflict and can't do it. I'm like, oh no, we've worked hard to get this up and running. We got to find a way to get this going. So I sent an email to Pete Van Dorp, and legitimately within 24 hours, he's like, "Jesse, no problem. I'll do it. I'm not worried about being paid. I'm not worried about any of those things. Whatever you guys want, I'm going to do it." And I'm like, man, so our guys get to hang out with Pete Van Dorp on the screen in our training room. We're not watching his presentation. We're with him. Like, he's telling us we can ask questions. So those are just cool opportunities that exist in the fire service in terms of leveraging technology. Podcasts, man, like this is opening a lot of doors in the fire, things that we wouldn't have the opportunity to do in our standard 9 to 5 day in and day out. So I appreciate all the stuff you're doing, man. Like it's really neat to scroll back through. And even that first one of those podcasts you had where it was a group when you guys were out in Colorado, and that round table, that is awesome. I love stuff like that. So,
are you talking about nervous? Now, did you? I mean, Kevin Mylan, Forrest Reeder, Pete Van Dorp, Tony Carroll, Gilbert. Gilbert didn't scare me. Kaz. All those guys were there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to herd them in there, and I started thinking, I'm like, who the fuck am I to herd these guys in there? But it's one of my favorite ones.
You did a great job, man.
Hey, thank you very much. It's not something I really ever wanted to do and thought I've got to do this. It's just I got inspired and then I started doing it. And I love it because it's very selfish. I get to meet it's like Corley Moore, who's he's my podcast hero. He does Firehouse Vigilance in the Weekly Scrap. And me and him were talking kind of off podcast and everything, just kind of shooting the shit. And he said, it's like having a keynote speaker every week. It's awesome. And that's the way I see it. I'm being very selfish. I mean, I get to talk to you all by yourself. No one else is bugging us. And I get to pick your brain, hear your story, hear your message. And then the side effect of that is that everybody else can download it and listen to it if they want to. Selfish point of view. This is me. I'm tickled to death for this. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I'll tell you what. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and that's the beauty of it because you start going down a different path, right? So like, I like variety. So like today I talk about building construction. Tomorrow it might be on educational technology, educational methodology, those sorts of things. Then it might be fire science. It might and to bounce all over. So like when I was listening to your podcast with Rob Lissetti, you guys are talking about things that get me going. Amygdalas. Yeah. Like man, if the conversation involves an amygdala, I'm in. So like to hear him talking about phases of competency and unconscious competency through unconscious competency, like those are the things that show us that we're all a lot more alike than we are apart. And that's where, at the end of the day, same with these generational differences and throwing different labels out there like millennials or Gen X or boomers or whatever. The reality is we're all pretty similar. And that's kind of what I'll end on my end, unless there's anything else, is one of the classes I do has some generational stuff built into it. It's today's training officer. And it's like a blend of everything, right? Like whether it's operating under stress or how to correlate standards in or really like how to make training exciting using technology or blended learning and to dispel things like flipped classroom and what that means and what that actually is and how we do it. And anyways, the first part about it are the 5 R's, and the 5 R's have to do with engaging millennials. And really the whole point of this is not to attach a label or to affix a label to a group. It's actually to say, hey, I'm going to walk through these 5 R's for engaging millennials. And I challenge anybody in the room, regardless of your generation, to tell me that you would do something differently. And that last R is rapport, right? So the theory is millennials prefer an instructor who's vested in their success. And that's what I'm saying. If the survey at the end of the class was that the instructor was perfectly shitty and wanted me to fail in every way, then I'd get a lot more speaking gigs. You know what I mean? Because nobody would ever say that. Nobody would ever say, give me the instructor that cares nothing more than to see me fail and suffer.
Right.
So that rapport part is really where we like take the opportunity to explore coaching and mentoring. And that's where as coaches, the biggest thing that we can do as a coach or a mentor or as just a peer, a good person, is to practice adaptive communication specifically to say, hey man, like we're not always going to force you. And this is going back to what we started with bringing that new person on board and knowing that expectations work both ways. We're not always going to ask you to put yourself on our terms. We're going to be willing to put ourselves on your terms. And we're going to be comfortable with that, even if it's out of our comfort zone, even if it's not in our wheelhouse, because that becomes our sweet spot, whether it's individually or organizationally. We're operating on the edge. That discomfort is where we learn. And that really goes back to what Rob Lissetti talks about in optimizing our performance. So I just, again, listening to all those different things, all these speakers that you've had on has been an incredible opportunity. And hopefully here at some point we'll cross paths in person again, or every time I call and hang up, I'll actually stay on the phone and long enough to talk to you. So,
and just think, every time you listen to Michael Jackson, you're going to think of me. There's not going to be a time.
That is burned in this memory. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
so.
Rob, I remember, I think you were sitting in the middle, right?
Rob was in the middle.
Then it was you that was around grabbing me, trying to get me to hush.
Yeah, we had, well, you know, I try to be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
I try.
I get that much calcium in me from that milk, you know.
Yeah. Does the body good.
It does the body good. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, brother, I've enjoyed having you on here. I always love talking to you. Can't wait to teach with you again. I can't wait to see online what you're doing and where you're at teaching and sharing your message. I mean it when I say I feel like I'm watching Alan Bruncini before he became the Alan Bruncini. I think you do a lot for the fire service. And what's going to be really cool is, like, in a few years, everybody's going to be talking about, you know, how they talk about Sean Duffy and all that stuff. They're going to say, oh, wait, Jesse Mark. I said, oh, yeah, I had him on second season. Yeah, I had Jesse on. Oh, you mean Jesse? Oh, yeah, I know Jesse. I'll be able to say shit like that.
Again, I'm super flattered that you'd say that. But the reality is I'm just doing my best with what I have, which isn't very much. You know what I mean? So, I'm just open to and willing to really learn from anybody at any time. So. And like I said, internally, we have so many incredible people in our organization. We don't need to be a huge department to have that opportunity. But guys like yourself, certainly, at some point I'm going to have to send you a thank you card, you know.
Or
maybe it'll have a gift card in it. Maybe the gift card will be used. But the idea is that it was a gift card at one point. At some point, that was a gift card.
I go to Subway, and they're like, there's nothing on this. I don't think you understand. Jesse gave me this, so it's got to work.
It's got to work. There's got to be something to it. So,
or get me one of those nice steakhouse cards that says $100 on the back, but only add $25 on it, so I invite my whole family, and then I'm fucked.
Yeah, one of those. You got no choice.
Oh, you're my hero, brother. You're my hero. It's good talking to you again, brother, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Good talking to you, buddy. I appreciate it. Thanks for everything.
Stay safe, brother.
All right, take care.
Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures and mobile units for 30 years. Make training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.